As for the cure to magic, after it has befallen a person, then there is much that can be done. Wallahu musta'an. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cure our brothers and sisters who have been afflicted. First thing is, don't go towards amulets. No matter how desperate you are, don't start tying things on your arm, believing that they are going to protect you. Don't fall into bid'ah by tying verses of the Quran, because that's bid'ah. We don't say that is shirk. To tie verses of the Quran around your neck because you are seeking protection with the words of Allah, we don't say that that is shirk. But to do it in the manner that you are doing it is bid'ah. As for other than that, from the other types of amulets, that I called upon a jinn and the jinn gave me some information, and then that sahir or that soothsayer or so-called raqi, that he writes it down, he adds some numbers, draws geometric lines and triangles and so on, then all of that enters into shirk and kufr. So keep away from all of that. If the source of the magic has been found, whether it is wrapped in something or dipped in something, or you find it in the corner of your house or hanging somewhere, take it and destroy it. Shred it, tear it apart, seek refuge with Allah, and burn it. As the ulama, they say, burn it and get rid of the ashes. From the best words with which to seek refuge from the effects of magic and jinn is to recite Surah Al-Ikhlas, Al-Falaq, and An-Nas. Surah Al-Nas after each of the prayers. Those three surahs after each of the prayers. If you don't pray, Allahul Musta'an. Where's your fortress of protection? If you don't even pray. When the Prophet ﷺ said that the difference between us, or the covenant between us and them, is the salah. Whomsoever abandons it has committed kufr. After prayer, each prayer, recite them. And this is sunnah anyway. Also before sleeping, blow into your cupped hands. Then recite these three surahs, Ikhlas, Al-Falaq, and An-Nas. And pass the hands over as much of the body as can be reached. And this should be repeated 3 times, the hadith in Bukhari and Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ, he said that Allah will protect you from everything by way of that. And likewise, there occurs in the hadith in the Sunan of An-Nasa'i, and it is Sahih. Prophet ﷺ said the best words with which one can seek refuge with are the mu'awwidhatayn. Is the recitation of Surah Al-Falaq and Surah Al-Nas. Also, one should pray the obligatory prayers on time and sit and remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with dhikr afterwards by the recital of Ayatul Kursi, the 255th ayah of Surah Al-Baqarah. And the Prophet ﷺ said that whomsoever recites Ayatul Kursi in the night, there will remain with him a protector that is sent by Allah, and the devil will not be able to come close to him up until morning. That's if you recite Ayatul Kursi at night. Hadith in Bukhari. The fourth affair is that you recite the last 2 verses of Surah Al-Baqarah. Go to the last 2 verses of Surah Al-Baqarah and recite them. Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith collected by Bukhari and Muslim, whomsoever recites the last 2 verses of Surah Al-Baqarah in the night, then they will suffice him. I mean, they are sufficient for him from Allah. Shaykh Abdul-Aziz bin Baz said that this means that they will be sufficient. It will be sufficient to save them from every evil. That's the meaning of the hadith. The fifth affair is that one should seek refuge in the perfect words of Allah from the evil of His creation throughout the night and day. And when one enters into his dwelling, or any dwelling for that matter, أعوذ بكلمات الله تامات من شر ما خلق. I seek refuge with the perfect words of Allah from the evil of what He has created. And likewise, that a person, that he should make dua to Allah to heal him from every illness. And from those illnesses is magic. Allahumma rabban nas, adhib al-ba's, ashfi anta shafi, la shifa illa shifa'uka, shifa'an la yughadiru saqama. O Allah, the Lord of mankind, remove the trouble and heal, for you are the healer. And there is no healing except for yours. A healing that leaves behind no ailment. And the Prophet ﷺ will recite that 3 times, the hadith in Bukhari and Muslim. And there's much else that can be done. There's something specific that Shaykh Abdul-Aziz bin Baz, he mentions, that some of the Salaf they used to do. He stated that this remedy, it has proven to have worked, and it is a form of ruqyah shar'iyyah. That one should take 7 green leaves of sidr, of the lote tree, and grind them down with a rock or 2 rocks or something similar to grind them down. Then place this in a bowl and pour over it some water, sufficient enough so there's enough to take a bath with and to drink from. Then once you have poured the water over it, then recite over it the following verses from the Quran. Ayatul Kursi from Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah Al-Kafirun, Surah Al-Ikhlas, Surah Al-Falaq, Surah Al-Nas, the verses related to magic in Surah Al-A'raf from 117 to 119, the verses in Surah Yunus 79 to 82, the verses from Surah Taha 65 to 69. Then after one has done this, he should take 3 sips from the vessel and then make ghusl from the remainder. Shaykh Abdul-Aziz bin Baz rahimahullah ta'ala, the Mujaddid and the Imam, he said, inshallah the affliction will subside. The affliction will go away by the permission of Allah. And if there is a need to repeat the procedure twice or more than that, then that is fine up until the affliction is removed. So you do all of these affairs and whatever else is reported from the Ruqyah Shar'iyyah. Recite the Quran. Surah Al-Fatiha is a cure. Any part of the Quran is a cure because the Quran itself is a cure. Recite it. We mentioned earlier that you should be attached to the Tawheed of Allah alone, reliant upon Allah. Don't start now paying £200 to that one and £300 to that one and he visits you. An important point that I heard today, that when Shaykh Rabi', he was asked the question about those Raqis that go and they say, give us $200 or $300 or $500 and we'll do ruqyah on you. Say, why are you charging? They said, because of the hadith. The hadith mentions that the Sahaba, they charged. They took a flock of sheep in the hadith in Bukhari and elsewhere. Shaykh Rabi said, yes, after they cured, not before they cured. So you pay him £200, he comes and does ruqyah, you're not cured. And you give him £200 anyway. Then you phone him, your ruqyah didn't work. He said, no problem, I'll come back in 2 weeks, but this time I'll charge $300 because I have to do a stronger ruqyah. I'll be more serious. Ajib. The hadith where the Sahaba radiallahu anhum came upon the mushrikeen and they sought with them that, can we stay with you? Will you host us? The mushrikeen, the tribe of the mushrikeen said, no, we're not going to host you. So whilst they were in that state and the Sahaba were leaving, the chief of the tribe of the mushrikeen, that he was stung by a scorpion. So then they called the Sahaba. They said, is there one amongst you who knows remedies? So he said, yes, I know a remedy. I know a remedy. And for this remedy, you will have to give me a flock of sheep. So he said, okay. So he went and he recited Surah Al-Fatiha and he used his saliva upon the sting of the scorpion. So the chief, he was cured. Then they gave them the sheep. So one of the Sahaba, he said, we are not going to accept it and we should not accept it up until we ask Rasulullah alayhi salatu wassalam. So they went to the Messenger of Allah, they explained the story, and the Messenger of Allah smiled. He said, yes, take it and give me a share. Alayhi salatu wassalam. Today you find these people setting up businesses. Setting up businesses, they're like in yellow pages. Raqi on call out charge, like a plumber. But the plumber is better. Why? Because the plumber says, I'm going to come out. When I fix your boiler, then I'm going to charge you, right? He comes, he breaks your boiler, he's going to charge you? So the point here being that the best ruqyah that you can perform is the ruqyah that you perform upon yourselves. Look at this protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A fortress that will protect you. And know for a surety that we have no fear of the sahir, of the Sahara. We don't fear them. We fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't have this hidden fear of them, this secret fear that we conceal in our hearts. We fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rather, you should fear the lion more than you fear the sahir, because the lion can do you some damage. Because there's something that Allah has created inherent in the lion. If he opens his jaws and you're nearby, you're in problems. You're protected by Allah with dhikr and ibadah and tawheed and ta'ah. Allah protects you. We don't fear the sahir. We fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What's the sahir going to do in front of the Quran and the words of Allah and the dhikr of Allah? You seek refuge with Allah and you're afraid of the sahir? How is that possible? He is the Lord of the universe and the Lord of all existence, of all that He created. When He gives you refuge, then what is the sahir going to do and the fortune teller going to do and the soothsayer? Let them blow. Allah will protect us. Let them blow on their nuts. Allah will protect us. Because nothing will occur except by the will of Allah. Don't be fearful. Don't let them scare you. Don't let the jinn scare you. Don't let the devil scare you. Fear Allah. Have iman in Allah and trust in Allah. And if you are afflicted by the irada of Allah kawniyah, by the universal will of Allah that you are afflicted, then again you return to Allah with the ruqyah shar'iyyah and the ibadah and ta'at and a'malu salihah and righteous deeds and dhikr and so on. This is our tawheed. What do you think? The Salafi just learns this academically? Allah, I know 3 categories of tawheed. Where's the amal upon that? This is what it means. This is why we learn tawheed. That we worship Allah, rely upon Allah, fear Allah, love Allah, hope in Allah, desire Allah, do acts of obedience to Allah, and not fear the sahir who calls upon his devils. These people, barakallahu feekum, these magicians or whoever else, and these jinn that come to you and whisper to you, don't fear them, fear Allah. Allah will protect you. Allah will protect you. The Prophet ﷺ said that whomsoever takes 7 dates of ajwa when he wakes, meaning that that's what he eats when he awakes, then it will be a protection for him from poison and from illness or from evil the whole of the day, from diseases. It will protect you. Shaykh Abdul-Aziz bin Baz, he mentions that there occurs a narration from the Prophet ﷺ where the Prophet ﷺ said, and this is the point of Shaykh Abdul-Aziz bin Baz, that it is that a person shouldn't imagine that I have to now go hunting around for ajwa. Because in a narration, it mentions that every tamar, every date that grows between the 2 lava plains of Medina, every date that grows between, meaning the 2 sides of Medina, from one side to the other side, whichever date grows between the 2 sides of Medina, whomsoever takes 7 of them, there will be a protection. Zamzam water is a protection, for it is, for whatever it is drunk. It is a cure. It is a cure. So you should seek out these remedies from the Kitab and from the Sunnah. Honey, hijama. Like the Prophet ﷺ said, your cure is in 3. And one of them was the hijama, the cups of the one who does the hijama, the Prophet ﷺ said. And in the gulp of the honey. You should never feel disheartened. This is not the way of the believer. Be positive. Allah is with you, inshallah. Remain trusting in Allah, and Allah will protect you. Barakallahu feekum.